To go to the grocery store or other outings, it can be difficult because I feel unsafe, I get anxious. I've learned to manage it. I go to the stores when it's not as busy, during busy times. Sometimes, thanks to the pandemic, now you can order your groceries online and pick them up. I wear hearing protection if it's too noisy outside. Sometimes I wear like a fidget necklace or even a bracelet or something like that, just to help me do things and try to remember to breathe and stuff like that.
It sounds like a lot of work to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, but after planning for it for years, I kind of got it down by now. It was a learning curve, definitely, to figure out what's going to work for me so I can try to live a somewhat normal life. That's kind of a long story. I was diagnosed. I had symptoms long before I was ever diagnosed. Things got worse for me in the early 90s. So my first diagnosis was in 1995. My most accurate diagnosis was in 2015. So they had difficulties diagnosing me because I didn't fit neatly into just like one category, or, I had some symptoms from here and some symptoms from another diagnosis, so that was a challenge. Yeah, and at least my experience with mental health, you can't go down the, DSM book and neatly always fit into a category. It's nice if you can, but it doesn't always work that way. And I've figured out too, I had to, try different doctors and different things just to finally get where I'm at. Okay, right now I'm doing much better than I was. I still do a lot of therapy, like art therapy. I've done EMDR, equine therapy. I've taken DBT classes, which for me were really helpful to better manage things and better communicate. And I just recently started at Frontier House, which for me is a safe environment to be able to interact with people where I don't necessarily need to plan so far ahead as to figure out what I need to do to cope with the situation. So that's been nice. So I've had a lot of hyper-arousal, hyper-vigilance because of feeling unsafe. I've had disassociation and paranoia and obviously being sad, and I also isolated myself, and it was hard for me, and still is hard for me I'm not working right now, but it was hard for me even before and after the initial diagnosis to hold down a job too. So yeah, before my most recent diagnosis too, I was getting triggered, but I didn't understand why or how I was being triggered. So now, knowing what's happening, it's easier for me to have coping skills or figure out what I need to do to make myself safe and comfortable. The strengths that I have is I just keep trying over and over, and if I need to, I switch approaches or methods of counseling or classes, and I try to think the best of people. So my advice to other people that are being diagnosed is just to keep trying, try different therapies, try different therapists. I still learning after all these years of new therapies, and of course, also too, for me, at least from my experience, the mental health avenues that you can take have improved over the years. There's a lot more now than there were in the 90s. So yeah, you just got to try different things. And also to remember that self-care is not selfish, which is not always easy to remember. So other people have, well, of course, reacted differently to my diagnosis. My family, unfortunately, hasn't been supported. I've been blamed, and some of my experiences have been invalidated. But then there are other people that are really supportive, and you can always find support in other avenues, like, as I was saying, Frontier House. Some people, group therapy works. It didn't work with me because of my experiences. Well, I wish people out in the public would know trying to think how to word it. Well, just that, sometimes getting too close to somebody in a store or touching them without warning can be a huge trigger for people. Also, too, one big pet peeve of mine is July 4th, the fireworks, or even New Year's Day, the fireworks. For me, the constant pop or loud noise is very difficult. And I know it's difficult for a lot of people. I don't know, just try to be compassionate of all people. Know that you got your stuff going on, they got their stuff going on, and just try to be understanding. Well, before, I see myself a little bit differently than I did before, because a lot of times, before I was diagnosed, I was having the symptoms, but I didn't really understand them or what was happening or how to control them. Where after diagnosis, I'm able, to come up with new skills to be able to cope with what's happening to me. I better know what is happening to me, like if I get triggered, why and what to do. As before, I just knew I was getting triggered and I didn't know why or how to cope with it. So that part with being diagnosed has really been helpful. My experiences in different therapies have been, well, EMDR for me didn't work very well, but I know other people have done EMDR and it has been really helpful for them. Equine therapy was really helpful for me and still is, being around animals and stuff. But equine therapy, from my experience, just being in the presence of the horse, somehow it just like lowers your anxiety and just calms you. And I don't know, it just works that way. It's kind of like magic. And I've really enjoyed art therapy. You can take that in a lot of different avenues. And yeah, group therapy didn't really work for me because I do better doing other things because it's hard for me to be around people. But and the DBT class was very helpful, both in regulation and in communication. I do have a dog, an emotional support animal. So yeah, no, I don't know what I would do without my dog, and having an animal, for me at least, too, it kind of makes you go outside and go for walks, and too, I mean, they're gonna let you know if you forget to feed them or something. So, and plus you're caring for, you know, someone else or something else other than yourself too. One thing to know about me or other people with diagnoses is that you don't have to be scared of us or uncomfortable with us. We're just people like everybody else, but we just have a different diagnosis than everybody else. So it's nice just to be treated as a person and not a diagnosis.